Hello. I'm here today with a issue of Simpsons Treehouse of Horror. I'm not actually sure which number this is. It's from 2009. And the reason I'm taking a look at this comic is because recently there was an omnibus or a giant hardcover collection put out of the Simpsons Treehouse of Horror, and I'm not sure. I think it's going to be a multi-volume set, if I recall correctly. And at the time, I heard a lot of people talking about whether this issue was included or whether these stories were all included. And this issue, which is I think the only Simpsons comic I own because it was edited by Sammy Harcum and has a lot of cartoonists who were known in the sort of art comics world in 2009, which is when this was published. This is issue 15 of the Treehouse of Horror. Right here we have a very nice Dan Zetwalk cover. Not who I would have guessed if I was asked to pick someone. Zetwalk is a very particular cartoonist, known for playing around with formats, lots of very inventive minis. Not the guy I would have picked out if you'd asked me who did this cover, but it's a pretty cool cover. And then the list of people that are in this: Tim Hensley, who just had Detention #2 was just released, so it's in a lot of people's best of the year list. Matthew Thurber and Kevin Huizinga working together. Jordan Crane, Ted May writing for Sammy Harcum, Will Sweeney, John Vermiglia, Ben Jones, John Kirschbaum, Jeffrey Brown, CF, and it's guest edited by Sammy Harcum. Anyway, I picked this up at the time, and I have no idea how hard it is to get a hold of this nowadays, but I just thought I would take a look through. Anyone who's maybe interested could decide whether they wanted to pick it up themselves. The very first, this one page is by Tim Hensley. Obviously, kind of done in a Simpsons style. We have a little brief appearance by Life in Hell character, and nothing special. It's a little one-page strip. Then we get into this, The Call of Vegeloo, written by Matthew Thurber and drawn by Kevin Huizinga. Matthew Thurber is a guy who did some work for Picture Box, and I believe has been published by Drawn It Quarterly, if I'm not mistaken. I feel like I am mistaken saying that. Either way, he has a few comics. I'll admit I've never gotten the appeal of Matthew Thurber's work, but a lot of people think he is brilliant, so what the hell do I know? Kevin Huizinga I am a fan of, and he has some nice cartooning here, though it isn't his best by any means. Kind of interesting seeing him in color too, since most of his stuff is in black and white. So he kind of tells a sort of, after the housing collapse leads to a sort of collapse in society, and Springfield is dealing with this. The story's pretty nonsensical, not helping my opinion of Matthew Thurber personally, but there you go. Still nice looking stuff, really clean, clear line cartooning by Huizinga here. Then we have a one-pager by Jordan Crane, an homage to the old Stoned Again by Robert Crumb. So it's a nice looking page. Then we get a little longer story here, written by Ted May, drawn by Sammy Harcum. Ted May, I'm having a hard time pulling to mind kind of his best known stuff, but he's been around for a long time, done a bunch of stuff. Sammy Harcum has been, there's a lot of chatter about him lately. He is the editor of Kramer's Ergot, and he has been working on his Blood of the Virgin story in his own title, Crickets. And Blood of the Virgin is going to be collected early next year, or I guess we're now into next year. So sometime here in early 2023, very, very, very strong Book of the Year candidate. He's a wonderful cartoonist. For years, I thought he's one of the most underrated cartoonists, and now I feel like he's going to get a lot of attention. So, which I hope happens. So, as you can see, really nicely cartooned. I mean, just beautiful stuff. The story itself is just sort of, it's okay. But, I'll be the first person to admit I'm not a huge Simpsons guy, so I kind of feel like there's not that much to hang on here, but Simpsons nuts would definitely disagree with me. Here we have a little story by Will Sweeney. Now, I only know Will Sweeney as doing these sort of, gonzo, almost fluorescent comics that are just all colored and, no real words or anything. Will Sweeney's another guy I'm not a huge fan of, though I admire his work and think it looks nice. But this one I think looks really nice because I feel like maybe he's putting the lettering over some sort of clear layer. I don't know. It's hard to explain how it looks. It just looks like it's layered almost like animation cells. And the color is sort of odd too, where there's nothing wrong with it. It looks really good, but it just has this sort of odd feel. And so this story here is as nonsensical as the rest, but I really liked actually just how strange it looks. And like I said, I really liked the lettering in the speech balloons. They're just, I don't know, they really pop off the page in a way that I find appealing. Here we have a contributors page. And Sammy Harcum just draws basically creatures, and each one of them is, a cartoonist that works in the issue, and tells you some of the stuff they worked on. So obviously now about 13, 14 years out of date, so I don't know how useful that is, but and then here we get into a little longer story. Who did this one here? John Vermiglia. Who I wasn't super familiar with. He used to appear in Mome, so I would have read that stuff for sure, but I have also, it's been a while since Mome came out, so, but anyway, this is very attractive looking stuff. It also looks pretty on model, so then we get into this, kind of slime creature here that looks great. I guess the story isn't too long. But yeah, you get into this little slime creature. Really nice cartooning, great lettering, nice colors. So, John Vermiglia, a really good contribution. And then here we get into CF, a story called Bootleg, which is, I don't know, I hesitate to go into the description of the story because it's a little, I guess politically incorrect would be the most polite way I could put it. Definitely don't think this would have gotten published in 2023, but maybe I'm wrong. So anyway, as usual, CF with the bright proppy colors. CF's another cartoonist that I don't really understand the acclaim for, but also have to admit that it is appealing visually, and the characters are pretty spot on. Here he's getting into sort of bootleg versions of the characters. So this one goes on a little long for me, but there you go. And here's a 2-pager by John Kirschbaum. I love John Kirschbaum's work. I'm a big fan. This isn't his finest hour, but a nice melding of his style laid over the Simpsons characters. He uses this very tight, 12-panel grid. It almost looks like a comic strip collection. So, just okay. And then Jeffrey Brown here at the back with a story. I feel like I'm being overly negative. I'm also not a huge Jeffrey Brown fan, but I do like his color work like this, and I found this story to be pretty appealing visually. Kind of the muted color palette, but looks nice. Almost looks like colored pencils or something. So once again, a story that kind of goes on a little more than it needs to, but he adds his own touch to it for sure. And then at the very back here, I'm sorry, Bootleg was by Ben Jones. I'm very sorry for saying that. Ben Jones. So this is in the Ben Jones style. Ben Jones, most known for the work he did that was published by Picture Box. Anyway, mea culpa. This is by CF at the back here. Just a quick little 2-pager. Almost reminds me of Simon Hanselman's work. The way it looks kind of like pencil drawings. So I found that kind of interesting. And there you go. So, like I said, not tons to say about this comic. I think it's a great snapshot of the time of who somebody like Sammy Harkin would pick to be in this issue. Not a lot of my favorite cartoonists, but a few choice ones and some very highly regarded ones as well. All right, thanks.